Blog Talk Radio.
Good evening and welcome to House Talk. I'm your host, Dr. Lauren Pitts. A generation ago, abuse victims were often terrified of coming forward, worried that they would appear weak or be blamed for their abuse. Thanks to the growth of the victims' rights movement, as well as the lobbying of millions of advocates across the globe, we now know how common domestic violence is. Indeed, some sociologists argue that gender roles, a fixation on control, and a culture of aggression have ingrained domestic violence into the American way of life. Tonight, my guest co-host Regina Williams and I welcome you to House Talk's Fall 2019 Domestic Violence Intervention Series. As a friend, family member, or coworker of someone in an abusive relationship, it's easy to feel powerless. But you can do your part by starting a conversation, offering support, and suggesting ways to get help. This is exactly what House Talk is all about, having the hard conversations and providing solution-focused strategies to educate, empower, and liberate individuals for the purpose of strengthening our relationships, homes, and communities. Tonight, we're doing just that. We're offering support and suggesting ways to get help in our discussion on domestic violence awareness and support, intimate partner violence. And we also want to hear from you during the show. So call us live with your comments or questions at 515-605-9744. Again, that's 515-605-9744. And I'm going to let my co-host know right now. So, Regina, Reva is in. So whatever the delay was in accessing the studio, so if you want to hang up and call in so that I can access you, and we'll pause that because I'm going to start with the introductions. So if you want to hang up and go ahead and call the switchboard back in, I'll patch you in that way. Okay. So tonight we have joining us Pastor Reva Green. We're also expecting to have guest Viola Pierce joining us tonight. And we also have Mr. Tim Gregory. Mr. Gregory is the executive director of the Huddle of South Jersey, is an organization that works with fathers and men in helping them to be stronger fathers. And a little bit in the show will allow him to tell. Matter of fact, you know what? While we're waiting for Regina to come back into the studio, Mr. Gregory, I'll go ahead and give you the floor now. And if you could share with our listening audience all over the world what the Huddle is about and what you hope to get accomplished with your organization based on this amazing work you've been doing with men.
Thank you, Dr. Lauren. So some of the things that we work on the man as a whole, right? Mm-hmm. We work on what's going on with you, what kind of issues do you have, what type of problems are going on in your life. We provide a safe space where men can talk about their issues. As we all know that men tend not to have that space where they can talk about their issues. We talk about hope, anger, stress. We talk about co-parenting. We talk about, hey, let's get your finances together. We all know that in finances play a huge role in everybody's life. And if your finances is not right, your stress level is high, things can happen quickly in your life. So we talk about getting your finances right. We're talking about getting your happiness right. You got to be happy with yourself as an individual before you can make other people happy. We talk about what's your relationship with your kids, but more importantly, what's your relationship with your child's mother. We take the negative connotation of baby mom out of that. See, that's your child's mother. She was good one point in time, right? You also got to take ownership. What was your actions in this? Why is the relationship the way it is?
Yes.
And those are the number of things that we talk about in trying to create the whole man. We try to work on a holistic view of the whole man. Also, guys who come in as mentees then turn into mentors to help other people make it through. I always say that your story is one of the most powerful tools we have out there. How did you make it from point A to point B? You can help somebody else out in the journey in life. And, I mean, that's just what we do. We do it on a weekly basis. And I've been doing this work in Salem City for about 4 years now. And we have made great strides. My first time having a meeting, I had nobody. Now I have about 10 guys on a weekly basis. And I have guys who came in as mentees who are now mentors, and they're leading the support group. And I don't like to really call it a support group, but it makes it easier for other people to understand the basis of it. But what we really call it is empowerment sessions, because our whole goal is to turn each man into a productive member of society.
I love that. I love that. So what I also want to do, Mr. Gregory, is later on in the show, either I or Regina, she was having trouble, so I actually had to call her back. So she's on the phone, sort of contributing to the studio, and I'll turn it back over to her in a minute. But later on in the show, certainly before we conclude, we want to make sure that we give that additional space for you to talk about how your program may be addressing domestic violence awareness and what it looks like within the area that the huddle operates, and how you're contributing to providing support and combating the problem. Are you okay with sharing that information with our listeners?
Absolutely, I would love to.
Okay, good. So I also wanted to welcome Reva Green and Viola Pierce to the show tonight. They both have amazing testimonies that I'm really excited about our listeners hearing. Good evening, ladies. How are you this evening?
Hello. Good evening. Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you fine. Okay.
Can you hear me?
So, yep. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. So we're sort of improvising here a little bit, but we're going to work it out, aren't we, Regina? So I have you on speaker so we can hear you fine, Regina. So we're going to go ahead and turn it on back over to you so we can get this ball rolling.
Okay, great. And hello, everybody. Tim, Reva,
hello.
Viola, and Dr. Pitts, thank you so much for joining us this evening. I just want to share a little bit of statistical information as we open up our discussion, and you guys feel free to jump in whenever the mood hits you. So one of the things I want to share is that more than 1 in 3 women and 1 in 4 men across the United States have experienced violence from an intimate partner. So if you know someone, if someone or yourself has experienced domestic violence, you are not alone. This is very, very prevalent in our society today. Yes. The Family Violence Prevention and Services Program, FVPSA, is the primary federal funding stream for a national network of domestic violence shelters and programs. Reaching out for help to stop domestic violence in your relationship and navigating the complex resources in your community can be difficult. It can be hard to know where to go for help, and it may not be clear how these programs can support your efforts to live a life free of violence and abuse. But you're not alone. The resources that we're about to talk about tonight are a great place to start your journey towards safety, hope, and healing.
Yes.
So many of the national organizations that we're going to mention can provide you more in-depth and knowledgeable resources in your community and surrounding areas. And I believe Dr. Pitts has a nice list. And again, I want you guys to jump in if we're not mentioning something that you know is out there, especially in your local community.
So what I want to do with that, Regina, before we get to, because we have this global listening audience, we certainly want to make sure that we're putting all of the national information out there that can be accessed by our listeners. But I do, because our guests on tonight are doing a lot of concentrated work in the tri-state area here, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Delaware, and they really are reaching the masses in the region, I'd like to give space for each of them, starting with Viola and then Riva and then Mr. Gregory, to sort of touch on what they're doing, locally and regionally that can help those individuals that may be victims or survivors or know someone who's a victim that needs resources made readily available to them. So if you all could share what's available here locally and regionally, I'd appreciate it.
Yes. My name is Viola Pierce, and I have a company named Hope and Liberty Services Incorporated, and we concentrate on the elderly and the youth as well. But right now, I know tonight we're talking about domestic violence. So most oftentimes, women, they're in need of the basic essentials. They sometimes they leave without anything. They don't even take anything with them. So we provide clothes, the basic essentials, the things that they need, a coat if they have children. The children need backpacks for school. They need clothes. And we also give them food or gift cards so they can go and get things for themselves. And we provide resources to help them find employment, help them find a place to stay, help them fill applications, and help them find transportation to a place they have to go, like to work, help them find the babysitters, just whatever the basic need is. Hope and Liberty Services really go beyond the average person to really help these individuals out. And then we also have outreach as well, and just go out, because some people not even in shelters, they're out in the streets and live in their cars. So we go look those individuals, and we make sure they have something to eat, make sure they're okay, give them gas money, whatever it takes to make sure they survive.
Can you share a contact number so that our listeners can have that information readily available too, or what your web address is, or preferably both?
Yes. The telephone number is 856-500-1537, and the website is Hope and Liberty Services Inc.org.
One more time.
856-500-1537, Hope and Liberty Services Inc.org.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
How about you, Pastor Green?
Yes. My name is Riva Green. I'm the founder of the Women of Purpose on Domestic Violence here in Millville, New Jersey. And what our organization does, we have like a lot of fundraisers, like conferences, to get people from the community, from different churches, from different programs to speak on what they've gone through. We started our organization in 2012, and we started it due to the fact that I had a sister that was murdered. She was a victim of domestic violence, whereas her son, which was 2.5 at the time, he witnessed his mother get stabbed to death. And seeing what that child had went through and keeping my sister's name alive, I also realized that there's so many women out there that's been hurting, like so many have been traumatized or victimized in one way or the other. They've gone through a lot of humiliation, the shame. They've gone through, these are our mothers we're talking about, their sisters and nieces that we're talking about. And what our organization does, we have, like I said, we have like fundraisers to help. Right now we're helping like serve families get started all over again. Because one of the things that when these women is coming out of an abusive relationship or an abusive home, sometimes they leave with just clothes on their backs. And although they may go to a program, sometimes when they leave, they need something to get started, and that's what my sister didn't have. And this is what we're about. So what we're having fundraisers to help these women get started all over again, because some don't want to return back into their abusive relationship. They really want to start. They're tired of being abused. They're tired of being hurt. They're tired of being traumatized and abused. And in order to help them, they need support. And what we also do is like also go into the street sometimes and help the people there that need the help. Some of the women, even the men, have been going through a lot of abuse, and we redirect them to a service that's available out there for them.
Mm-hmm. Wow. So is there a contact number and website for the work that you're doing that our listeners can reference?
Yes, my number is 856-200-774. One of the websites is Women of Purpose, dv.2018 @gmail.com. And the other is bezprayer859 @yahoo.com.
Pastor Green, can you repeat all of that information? Just look, one, as the kids say, one more again to make sure that our listeners had a chance to sort of jot it down and make notes.
Yeah, one of them is Women of Purpose on dv.2018 @gmail.com.
Okay.
And the other is Jabez Prayer, which is JABEZPRAYER 859 @yahoo.com. And my number is
so
856.
they can email either one of those email addresses and obtain additional information?
Yes, they can.
Okay. And is there a telephone number available in case they, some folks still aren't computer savvy?
856-200-6774.
Awesome.
And that's the direct number.
Thank you. Mr. Gregory?
Okay, for me, we have the Salem County Women's Services. They do a lot of great work as far as housing, and they work with women as far as getting things together. Also, we have, I always promote your local Family Success Center. They have a lot of resources, and they can get you where you need to be. You just have to go in there and talk about your issues, and they are more than willing to help you. We have a great Family Success Center in Salem, New Jersey. There's also a great one in Pennsville, Bird's Eyes Family Success Center, and they also have another great Family Success Center in Pennsgrove, Riverview Family Success Center. Unfortunately, I don't have all their phone numbers, and I don't have the number to the Salem County Women's Services, but I do have the number for any man that is experiencing anything domestic violence related to the Huddle of South Jersey. That is my organization where we help men be better men, and that number is 856-759-3244. And we actually meet every Tuesday from 4 to 5 at 14 New Market Street, Salem, New Jersey, which is a Family Success Center where we meet at.
Awesome. So what I'll do, Mr. Gregory, is the facilities that you reference, if you could just state them one more time.
Okay. So I referenced the Salem Family Success Center. I also referenced the Bird's Eye Family Success Center, which is in Pennsville, New Jersey, Salem County. And I referenced Riverview Family Success Center, which is in Pennsgrove. If anybody out there has a Family Success Center near them, what they can do is just Google Family Success Centers near me, and it will pop up. I mean, they are a great resource as far as housing, domestic violence support, and whatever you are lacking in your life. They offer parenting classes. They offer credit repair. They offer a lot of different programs that that is great, and they're located in every county in Salem, New Jersey. Every county in New Jersey. So there's a lot of them. And they're great.
So what I will do, so that our listeners are aware, is at the end of the show. At the end of the show, I put up the keys for the key rings so that the listeners know the key points that we want them to take away from the show. So each of those facilities, by the time we conclude, I will have the contact information for those, and I will put them in the post-show post that we have for the things that we wish to highlight, so that our listeners, at least here in the region, have that information readily available to you. So, Regina, I've actually patched you into the studio, so you are on. Can you hear us okay? Regina? Okay. So while we're waiting for her for her sound and what have you to get straightened out, I don't know what the heck is going on tonight. But anyway, it's neither here nor there. So we've shared some really great information here locally and regionally in the tri-state area for Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Delaware. So now I want to share some national information with our listeners. So first and foremost, we want to emphasize that if you are in danger, hold on for just a second. If you are in danger, please call 911 immediately, a local hotline or the National Domestic Violence Hotline. The National Domestic Violence Hotline provides confidential and anonymous support 24/7. And I would suffice it to say that even though our guests did not state that their organizations provide confidential information, I think it's a pretty reasonable assumption, right, everybody, that if folks come to you for support or services, your information is confidential. Whatever it is you're going through is held in the utmost confidence with the organization that's going to be providing support for you. And the same applies for the National Domestic Violence Hotline. So you can reach out to the Domestic Violence Hotline at 1-800-799-7233. Again, that's 1-800-799-7233. Or you can also call if you need, the assistance for the hearing impaired, 1-800-787-3224. Again, that's 1-800-787-3224. We also have a national organization called Love is Respect, which provides teens and young adults confidential and anonymous support. You can reach out to them by phone at 1-866-331-9474. Again, that's 1-866-331-9474. And for the hearing impaired, 1-866-331-8453. The womenslaw.org provides legal information and resources for women that have been victims. You can reach out by email through Women's Law email hotline, and that is available in English or Spanish. Additionally, we also have the National Dating Abuse Hotline, 1-866-331-9474. I think that's the one I gave already. The National Child Abuse Hotline for Child Help, 1-800-422-4453. That's 1-800-422-4453. The National Sexual Assault Hotline, 1-800-656-4673. 1-800-656-4673. And then the last one that I'm going to reference is the National Center for Victims of Crime. That is 1-202-467-8700. 1-202-467-8700. So Regina is expressing that she is having some technical difficulties. So we're going to continue to move on, and if she's able to get the technical stuff worked out, then she'll chime back in. So,
Hey, Dr. Lauren, can I add one more? Can I add one more
please,
to you?
please. Absolutely.
For our LGBTQ plus listening audience in the New Jersey area, we have Ars Institute, and their number is 609-589-6990.
Say that one more time, Mr. Gregory.
Okay. Their number is 609-589-9690.
And thank you for referencing that. Actually, we were originally planning on doing 3 weeks of DV and 2 weeks of breast cancer awareness, and we were actually dedicating an entire show to the LGBTQ community with DV. But we're still going to, but we're going to have to merge that show next week with the last show that we were doing since we had technical issues last week. But thank you, because we are going to be sharing additional resources specifically for the LGBTQ community next week, and really digging deep into some of the issues that members of the community experience, because they're vulnerable in many ways because of the difference in lifestyle, which is not fair, but unfortunately it happens. But we're definitely going to be addressing that in more detail next week. So, this is a very powerful and much needed discussion that we're having tonight, and we want you to join us. So, I heard that there's some issues with the telephone lines, but please at least try to give us a call at 515-605-9744. If the line is busy, just keep trying, and hopefully you'll be able to get through. Again, that's 515-605-9744. When it's a viable option, it is best for victims to do what they can do to escape their abusers. However, this is not the case in all situations. Abusers repeatedly go to great extremes to prevent the victim from leaving. In fact, we've learned that leaving an abuser is the most dangerous time for a victim of domestic violence. One study found in interviews with men who have killed their wives that either threats of separation by their partner or actual separation were most often the precipitating events that led to the murder. So let's expound upon this a little bit further for our listening audience. Let's talk about, why do victims sometimes return to or stay with abusers? And whoever wants to jump in on that first, please feel free, and I'll follow all of you if you haven't touched on some things I want to reference.
Lack of finances.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have the money to have their own place.
Mm-hmm.
And also fear of maybe retaliation with the children, because sometimes the man may do something to the children. And they don't want to become homeless or stay into a shelter.
Yeah. Certainly been there, done that.
Sometimes it's shame. They're too shameful to admit they're in a domestic violence relationship or domestic violence situation. And sometimes, so many times, the public, not everybody, but they criticize for staying in that relationship. So sometimes they have a tendency to return back there to make it look good, to make their relationship look good. And they're shameful of what they're doing, but they don't want to get out of it because of that reason, because of what people are saying, the talk, the conversations. And I know they said that sticking sticks and stones may break your bones, but names will never hurt. But names do hurt. Names hurt in a way that it hits down to the core of your heart. And sometimes a person's spirit can be broken by words that can be spoken by individuals. And sometimes this is where we have to be so careful about. And so many times they don't want to go because of that. And the thing about it is, some don't have jobs, and they're counting on their abuser's income. And a lot of times, because of the financial abuse that the abuser does, they have no choice but to stay there because they don't have any type of skills. So they're they have to stay there. And this is where some of the things that we as a community have to do is like not be so judgmental, like Evangelist had mentioned before, to be not judgmental of what their decisions are. But whatever their decisions are, we have to like back them and give them that support and whatever resources out there to let them know too that they can be free. They don't have to remain in that, because a lot of times them remaining in that relationship, if the abuse is getting worse, it's like either your life is going to be taken or you're going to be like, you're going to lose your own identity. And when you lose your identity, you've lost who you are.
Yeah. Yeah. So very, very true.
And sometimes they think it's normal. I'm sorry.
No. Go ahead.
They think it's normal behavior because they've seen their mother stay with their father, abuse the mother. So they don't know any better. This is what they think love looks like. So they stay with that abuser because they think it's love. He loves me because he says it, or he'll beat her up, or, mentally abuse her. Then he bring her flowers, promise he's never going to do it again. And then she'll believe it. She convinced herself and believed that he's never going to do it again. And then she learned this from her mother, forgiving her father all the time. So she feel like this is normal. This is normal behavior to her. This is normal.
Right. So with that,
multi-generational.
It's a generational curse, is what you was getting ready to say, and that has really plagued our community. Also, I heard you ladies talk about financial abuse, which is an abuse that typically goes unreported. Yeah. That is really, really big out there for men and women. And some of the things is helping an individual determine their self-worth, your value. What do you bring to the table? And that you're more than this. You're bigger than this. And what we also have to do is also work with our local domestic violence agencies to see how they're spending their funding on, if they're spending their funding correctly. So we know that there is a need for more temporary housing, where it doesn't require me to go to a shelter, because a lot of times people don't want to go to a shelter because of the stigma, and we have to see if there is a lot of houses and apartments and things like that, and hotels that I believe that they should start putting resources to start working with some of these chain hotels on getting places for people to go when they're in need of service. And unfortunately, in the county that I live in, we don't have those resources. Right. So a female or a male has to wait till the next day to call, unless they call the welfare line. Then, the next 5 hours could be your life. So, again, we have to reach out to the agencies and make sure that they're filling out for the transitional aid and trying to make sure that they're doing what they're supposed to do with the money. We all know that most agencies spend at least 20% on administrative fees. Can we lower that cost? That may be another subject, but it does coincide in the support that's needed for domestic violence victims.
Yes. I would like to venture out and just say this. All of us speaking and, talking about domestic violence, but there's like 1, 2, 3, I think 5 of us on the line. Perhaps we can do something. Perhaps we can get together and we can start a foundation or something to house these women and men, domestic violence, and we make sure they have a place to stay. So it can start with us.
Absolutely.
I like it.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I'm not against
and
that.
even get a resource book together. So everybody put their minds together and create a resource book that will be available to the community.
Absolutely.
I wholeheartedly agree. And when I think about you know, from a clinical perspective, the reasons that my clients give me for staying or for going back, they're everything that you all have said, and so many other reasons. I think that one of the biggest ones that I hear in my work is unsupportive friends and family. And I'm not sure if it was Reva or Viola that talked about the sticks and stones piece, but I remember that, right? I remember family members and friends and colleagues and even strangers that got wind of the fact that I was a victim of domestic violence. They went above and beyond to tell me how stupid I was. They went above and beyond, you know, for as smart as you are, you're just stupid. Well, when you, like you said, when you're dealing with somebody that already is just wounded to the core of their soul, and family members and friends are responsible for beating people down even further. And staying in an abusive relationship has nothing to do with intellect. It is not an intellectual decision. It is an emotional decision. And when you take into consideration the level of brokenness, the level of woundedness that one experiences having been a victim, when I look back in retrospect on when, you know, the most, not the only abusive relationship that I was in, but the most abusive relationship that I was in, you know, the first time he hit me was on my honeymoon. So how do you come home from your honeymoon and tell a whole lot of family and friends that told you not to marry the individual in the first place that I spent my honeymoon getting beat upon? Well, you know, it just, you couldn't. It's like you said, the embarrassment, the shame, the humiliation. So it is imperative that family members and friends make it their business to love the individual unconditionally and to not be a part of the problem. We didn't stay. None of us that have been victims stayed because we're stupid. There's so many other contributing factors to getting out of these relationships. And oh, by the way, let's just go ahead and take a look for a moment at the fact that abusers, whether they be male or female, because of course in my line of work, I see men that are abused too. But what I've learned personally and professionally is that abusers they're like heat-seeking missiles. They're predators. They prey upon those individuals that they can get away. You know, it's old school, right? They, you know, somebody could say, oh, well, he was in a relationship with such and such, and he never raised a hand to her because he knew better. You know, there's if you're dealing with a man or a woman and you're abusing that individual and they don't have or perceive that they don't have a support system, it does make that person that much more vulnerable, which is why the abuser does such an outstanding job of isolating the victim from family members and friends, and anybody else that the abuser perceives can bring some sort of resolve or freedom or liberation to that person that is being victimized. So what I say to you listeners, if you are the person that is being abused, we're not suggesting for a moment that leaving is easy. In fact, it is probably one of the hardest decisions you will ever have to make in your life. I know that it was for me. But the alternative is it could cost you your life. So what I say to you, having been there, done that, and slept in my car and women's intervention shelter and all of those uncomfortable things, at the end of the day, I have my life and I have my sanity. And there were many years where I said the only thing that was not taken from me in that relationship was my salvation and my sanity. And there was many a day where I felt like I was going crazy. But I want to make sure that our listeners and those that they share this information with are aware that there are solutions. There are resources that are available to you. And it's comparable, if you will, to physical rehab if you've broken a bone or if you've been in a car accident or something like that. I'm not going to lie to you and say that it's not going to be uncomfortable for a while, but I would rather you be uncomfortable and alive and allow us to help you than us get a phone call saying that the undertaker and the county coroner has to show up at your home because he's taken you out of here, or because you've taken him out of here. Because folk want to get grandiose and full of themselves and think that men can't get hurt. They can. I tell folk all the time, that's why there's a show called Snapped. You know, there's some people, I was at one of the relationships that I was in, he forbid me from watching that show because he was afraid that Lauren was going to snap and that I was going to hurt him. So even though he was doing all of the horrible things that he was doing, he had enough sense to know, wait a minute, she might get some ideas. And we're not saying for a moment that we want anyone to take matters into their own hands. What we're saying is that there are resources that are available that initially, wholeheartedly, may present as more uncomfortable, may present as not the most ideal situation. But at the end of the day, your life is more valuable than any cable, any king-size bed, any queen-size bed, or anything else. The overall well-being of you and your children, whether you be male or female, that's what's important. All of the other stuff, listeners, all of the other stuff can be replaced. Your life cannot. The lives of your children cannot. And what we're asking you tonight is to please do not play Russian roulette with your life and the lives of your children. Because as you've heard, for some, it does end up in death. And we do not want that to be you, and we do not want it to be your children. Regina, are you with us?
I am. I was able to make my way here some kind of way. It's been a time. It's been a time. I have been able to listen and, you know, just hear some of the conversation that's been going on, and it's definitely awesome, definitely a much-needed conversation, and, you know, hopefully we'll be able to do segments like this and other, you know, throughout the year, because this is a serious issue in our society. I mean, we all know that domestic violence does not discriminate. Right. You know, anybody doesn't have anything to do with race, age, sexual orientation, which some people will try to people put things on religion or gender and different things like that. But anybody who's a victim or perpetrator of domestic violence, it can happen to people that are married. We talked about that, living together or just dating. You know, we don't even want to talk about these high school students.
Oh, goodness gracious.
You know, I substitute and I see some strange things, and they think they're playing. But I'm jumping right in, and I'm like, no.
Right.
No, we're not even getting ready to make you think that that's normal behavior or that's appropriate, getting in each other's space and stuff. So teen dating and things like that affects people, all socioeconomic backgrounds and education levels, because we all know Dr. Pitts isn't stupid. So I don't know why anybody would want to say that, but it includes behaviors that physically harm around fear, prevent a partner from doing what they wish, or force them to behave in ways they do not want. It includes the use of physical and sexual violence, threat, and intimidation, emotional abuse, and economic deprivation. And we've heard you say all of that, you know, deprive you of money, take the keys from the car, you know, all kinds of things. You know, talk about you, make you feel bad, you know, hit you where they know it hurts, you know, if you're real self-conscious about certain things. Then nobody going to want you with this. You got 16 kids, and, you know, just the things, the mental things that people say. So there's many different forms of domestic violence, the sexual abuse. And it can all be occurring at the same time, or, so things can just happen. I just want to add, you know, especially to our guests tonight, and even to our listeners, if you're able to call in, you know, what are some of the potential warning signs that you think people should know about? Because a lot of people think, oh, it's not happening to me. I mean,
she's just playing. She's just playing.
But what are some definite warning signs that we think people need to know about?
I'll start this one, Regina. Just some keys that I really see highlighted a lot in my work, and like you said, having taught for years at the high school level, when individuals, male or female, insist on moving quickly into a relationship, warning sign. That is a warning sign all day. It's like, wait a minute, why you sweating me? Why you pressing me out? What's going on? They can be very charming and may seem too good to be true. You know what old folks say, if it seemed too good to be true. That's probably because, look now, pay attention. They insist that you stop participating in your preferred leisure activities or spending time with family and friends. They are extremely jealous or controlling. And I want to pause there for a minute because I cannot tell you all how much I hear that in my line of work. And I'm like, see, it makes me stutter. Because when I hear these men that their chest gets puffed out because the woman is, you 45 years old still willing to fight in the street over this dude. And he's all, she willing to fight over me. Are you insane? Hello? Warning sign. And the flip side of that, with you're with this guy, and every time you turn around, he's threatening to break the bank teller's neck in half. Like, yeah, bro, that's not okay. Or you're getting the evil eye or the stank eye when you're at the grocery store because the 16-year-old male cashier was too nice to you. Are you serious? Like, what are you doing? Pay attention to that sort of stuff. It's not flattering. It's a warning sign. They do not take responsibility for their actions and blame others for everything that goes wrong. And Regina, you already touched on, you got to pay attention. When folk are criticizing you, you're fat, you're ugly, you're stupid, nobody's going to want you. If their actions and words don't line up. The one thing that I want to point out, and I'm curious to hear what our guests think about this, in my line of work, one of the things that I run into is in these relationships where there's DV present, you would be blown away by the number of children that are being conditioned to be equally abusive. So, and it's not just boys, it's both, right? So if the mother, I'll flip it, right? If the mother is the abuser and the father is the one that's being verbally, emotionally, and physically abused and he's being emasculated, the whole 9 yards, I can't tell you how many times I see these kids treat these fathers like dirt. Yes. Talk to him any old type of way, treat him any old type of way. They're modeling what they see from their mother. But the flip side of that, too, is that the men do it, too. It's like you condition your sons and your daughters to treat their mother like trash. And then that generational curse, that multi-generational and intergenerational cycle continues because the narrative that's being formed in the minds of these children, as you just alluded to, Regina, is that it's okay. This is normal.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I have them tell me that all the time. No, it's okay. It's not okay.
Not at all.
You want the man as human beings, male and female, to be treated a certain way.
Right. We set the standard.
To think that you set the set. To think that is okay. They were in there, and I'm not gonna stay on this soapbox, but they were in there playing. It was rock, paper, scissors, or whatever.
Oh, kids still play that?
But it's called rock, paper, slap.
Oh dear.
Yeah. So when you get, when you lose, or I don't even know how to play the game, never did. But when you lose, you get smacked in the face.
Oh heck no! Where they do that?
I'll tell you.
Look, we don't play that game.
Yeah. So
that'll get you hurt.
And I'm being looked at like, oh, you granny. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
You old school, But these are the kinds of things that I see. And, this is 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th grade students. And it doesn't matter. They all get along. It doesn't matter. They're not just the black students or the white students. It's all of them doing this and treating each other that way. And this one girl's face was so red. And I'm like, I know you're going to be bruised tomorrow. I can't even imagine what your mom's going to think. Oh, we pay this all the time. We pay it at home. Okay, I'm going to,
Houston, we got a problem.
We got a problem. So,
wow.
That was my experience this week with that. I couldn't believe it.
Wow. Rock, paper, slap.
Rock, paper, slap.
That would have never That would have never worked in the 80s.
No.
Look here. No, sir. There will be no slapping of the face. No need. Oh, goodness.
Just saying.
Okay. All right. What else you got? I'm sorry.
I want to add too about when they tell you how to dress, what you can or cannot wear, or telling you who to talk to and who not to talk to. Stalking is a biggie. And one thing that's really sticks out to me is when they begin to buy you expensive gifts in the beginning of a relationship.
Ooh, that's a good one.
That sticks out a lot.
Mm-hmm. Look, and reminding you of what they bought you and how much they paid for it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yepper. Yeah.
And threatening to take it back.
Girl, say that.
Yeah.
Taking the hat, threatening to take the house, the car, the bling, and everything else, because you won't do what they say. Yep, been there, done that too. Wow. Anybody else?
I would say keep close tabs.
Go ahead. I can. What I like to play is devil's advocate on this. So we always look at the victim, but we never look at the perpetrator. So the perpetrator himself or herself may have been a victim of domestic violence, and they have some self-esteem issues. And we have to definitely work with the perpetrator so that they do not repeat this cycle. So I have had a man come to my group sessions, and he talked about, he was abused as a child, and like we alluded to earlier in the conversation, the only way that he felt as though he can show his love is through abuse. Regardless of what we may think of that as being wrong or whatever, but that's the way he felt in that situation. And a lot of stuff has to do with education. So we have to be out there and start educating our young men, our young girls, like the lady talked about, paper, rock, slap.
Paper, slap.
Rock, paper, slap. On how, people are not viewed as property. We have to stop thinking that way. We have to, everybody has their own individual greatness to them. They just have to find it. And like I said, we just have to start, more education to the perpetrator, because if we don't educate the perpetrator, that they will repeat the cycle. We got to see what's going on inside them, get them to be made whole again so they can see the wrongdoings of their actions.
Hurt people.
And Mr. Gregory and Reva, or I think it's Reva, real quick, just let me plug here. And this is why I love my work as a couple, marriage, and family therapist, because everything, education, training, experience, everything is a family systems approach, and recognizing that people are who they are because of the clinical term, the ecosystemic influence in their lives. So whether it's what's going on in their household, what has happened in their family across generations, what the cultural narrative of the family is, what's going on in the community, the school, every contributing arm, if you will, of that person's life impacts the person that we see standing in front of us. So in the case of the perpetrator and in the case of the victim, and I think one of you kind ladies, touched on, for example, if the woman sees her mother being a victim of abuse, right? Or let's flip it again. If a son sees his mother being abused. So there's a couple of different messages that can come forth, right? Either it's okay to abuse women, or not. You know what I mean? So we have to be mindful, as Mr. Gregory said, of recognizing that there's a history there. There is something that is contributing to this person being predisposed to be a victim or predisposed to being a perpetrator, and we have to be willing systemically to peel back the layers and look at the root of the problem. And more times than not, Mr. Gregory, you're spot on, it's that there's that volatile history that's there that makes us know, once we dig a little deeper, that this person has been subjected. One of the things we do, and then I'll shut up, one of the things that I do clinically is I do what's called a genogram on my families. And a genogram is a clinical family tree. And in that genogram construction, I look at everything. I look at medical issues. I look at emotional issues. I look at mental health. I look at DV, substance use abuse, anything and everything that you can think of that exists in your family. I'm going to touch on it when I create that family's genogram. And what it does is it illuminates patterns of behavior intergenerationally and multi-generationally that people don't even realize. It's like, like, oh yeah, you know, so-and-so and so-and-so and so-and-so are drug addicts, and so-and-so and so-and-so and so-and-so are pedophiles. But when you start to look at it from a generational standpoint, you be like, dang, we got a problem. And people don't realize it. People don't realize that it, and oh, by the way, it gets worse every generation. So yeah. So I just wanted to plug that clinical piece. So I believe that being deliberate and intentional in seeking help, not only to get out of the relationship, but then to have that therapeutic support to begin and to sustain one's wholeness emotionally, I think is critical. I really, really do. And I'm not just saying it because I'm a therapist. I'm saying it because once upon a time I had a therapist. And that's part of the reason why I'm saying today, because I needed help to deal with all that craziness that was going on in my life.
And I have a concern. Is there, I know, Virginia, you said you substitutes and those that deals with the education part. I know they have like curriculums regarding sex education, but do they have a curriculum regarding domestic violence in the school system?
What they have in most of the school systems are the LINK programs, which are affiliated with Inspira Health and different hospital associations that work with behavioral health, emotional health, physical health. So the students are able to access, therapists, counselors, if they have issues with, substance abuse, with any kind of issue. They have what they call now in the schools in New Jersey, at least, that I know of, the LINK system. And that provides them connections to resources right on campus. They don't have to leave campus to get the services. They don't have to, a lot of the services are confidential in nature unless there is, unless there is a real need to report something, they can handle whatever within the school. Well, the actual LINK system is not in the school. It's inside the school, but it's not of the school.
Is it comparable to like the school-based youth services, Regina?
I'm sorry?
Is it comparable to so in Salem County, in our Salem County schools, we have school-based youth services.
Yes.
And there's all the mental health and support. Okay, so it's a comparable program in Cumberland County. Okay.
Right. So whichever county, because not every county has like an Inspira.
Right.
But the actual, I guess the reference or the model is called the LINK.
Okay.
And that's what the school-based services have evolved to, and you know what I mean, have evolved. But yes, they have all those services right in school.
Okay. And is that on all levels?
You see, you can have all of that there, but if they're not utilizing it because they don't see the value or they don't feel as though they fit or they have a need, it's there and they're educated about it. But again, you know, if you haven't gotten to that point where, you know, being smacked in the face because you had scissors and not paper, you know.
What the heck? That is crazy to me.
Yeah. So, but to answer your question, yes, Reva, they do have in most of the schools access to those types of that type of information and those services.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. So as you know, as the resource book or the resource information begins to include a lot more of the grassroots and the on-ground. I don't like really saying grassroots, but the on-ground services. You know, your church-based, your CDC, your Liberty Services, your husband, all of those organizations begin to be added to those resources. Those linked services within the school districts will be that much better.
Okay. Yeah. Yes.
So Regina, I'm gonna just touch on. I'm not gonna ask the change question, but I do want to touch on the data surrounding it, and then we can go ahead into the keys. We got about 4 or 5 minutes left. I just wanted to say to our listeners that, you know, we're not suggesting that perpetrators can't change. The reality of it is people do change. That small 2-word sentence is actually a huge, significant statement that carries a lot of weight. We grow up learning about change, the inevitability of it, the uncertainty it can bring. We change our opinions, personalities, careers, friends, and so much more. Some changes feel like they happen overnight, while others are more conscious and they have to be, like overcoming an addiction or correcting a personality flaw that's harmful to ourselves or others. If you're the one wanting a loved one to change, it really can feel impossible. Trust me when I tell you, it can feel impossible. But we hold on to the hope that they will change because we desperately want them to, because we remember how they were different in the past. And if they change for the worse, can't they change for the better? They can. And I just wanted to share that before we get ready to close out. I wanted to make you all aware that people can change, but what we say clinically is the first step to recovery is acknowledging that you have a problem. So in order for the abuser or the victim to change, there has to be a willingness to acknowledge that, hey, something is very wrong here and we need to be doing something different. And we need to be doing something better because this situation, this toxic, violent, volatile relationship is not doing anybody any good. And we have to break the cycle of violence. So on that note, Regina, I'll let you go ahead and close us out with the keys.
Could I make an announcement on something we're having for domestic violence?
Sure. Can you do it like once Regina gets everybody's highlights, and then you can all your announcements, because I know you got some events and stuff like that coming up. You do that, and then I'll close us completely out if that's okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Regina. Gina. She disappeared. Okay. So if you know or suspect that someone is a victim of domestic violence, you might feel clueless about the best way to help. Don't let fear of saying the wrong thing prevent you from reaching out. Waiting for the perfect words could keep you from seizing the opportunity to change a life, perhaps save a life. The world for many domestic abuse victims can be lonely, isolated, and filled with fear. Sometimes reaching out and letting them know that you are there for them can provide tremendous relief. And I'd suffice it to say the same thing applies for the perpetrator. I don't believe that people abuse just because they're horrible human beings. I believe that people abuse because there's a deep-seated issue that is contributing to them becoming an abuser. So as Mr. Gregory and all of our panelists said tonight, we have to dig deeper, and we have to find out, why is this victim a victim and why is this perpetrator a perpetrator? And we can help support these individuals that are in these vulnerable situations, because the reality of it is both people are sick. Both people have a problem that needs resolve, and it's going to take a community to do that. So what can we do to help? What are 3 or 4 key points we want our listeners to take away from tonight's discussion? I'll start with Riva, then Mr. Gregory, then Viola, then Regina, if she can hear us, because she went out again.
I'm back.
Okay, you're back. So, Pastor Green, you want to share with us 1 or 2 key points you want our listeners to take away from tonight?
Yes, make sure they take down all the links and the websites that they can go on to pull the information that's available to them, the phone numbers. Make sure that they don't say that I'm too fearful to make an action or take action. Take heed to whatever information that was provided and use it. And you have to do it in a personal way. Do it in a personal way and not spread it. Everybody know your business, but do it in a private way. That's what I can think of right now. Go ahead.
Okay. Viola? Or Mr. Gregory, I'm sorry. Viola.
You want me to go?
Yes, please. Okay. And then Viola. And then
one of the things I want people to take away is the fact that people are not property. You do not have any ownership. People are not property. You do not have any ownership of anybody. Yeah. Another thing I want people to take away is that you're better than that. You have value. Your life has value. Your opinion does matter. You have to figure out the best way for you to get that out, get out of the situation wherever you're in. It's not going to be easy, but nothing in life is easy. Right. So you have to figure out, use your resources. One of the resources that we didn't mention is your local church.
Oh, yeah.
Your local church has a lot of people who've probably been to the same situation that you've been in, and that they are willing to help. So we have to start reaching out to our local churches and asking them for support. To the perpetrators, you're better than that. You got to do better. For the men out there who know the perpetrators, we got to start calling them out. Yes. We got friends that we know who are doing domestic violence, and we don't say nothing to them. Yes. Oh, that's just the way it is. We got to start calling them out, pulling him to the carpet, and making him accountable for his actions. And those are the topics I would like people to take away, the key points people to take away.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Yes, I would say stop keeping the secret. Tell your family, tell your friends, reach out to them, stay in contact with them. Even if you have to wait till you go to your job and use the phone and tell your mom, tell your father, your sister, your brother, your friends that you are okay. Because if you don't, you can die. And your children are going to be left behind without a mother or without a father, because abuse works both, male and female. So take that chance. It's worth it. I did it myself. I'm glad I did it. I was fearful. I was terrified. I was threatened in a way that this person's going to take my body parts and just hide them and bury me all over the place where nobody can find me. But I still knew.
Goodness gracious.
I still knew to fight and still tell and stay connected to my family and friends. And I made it, and you can do it too. And if all of us here, we give our resources out to you all. Reach out, call somebody, call for help. It's worth it. You will be you'll be liberated. You'll be free. You'll be happy that you did it.
Regina?
Yes. One of the things I heard it in the call was that the same way the voices that you're hearing tonight have decided and took action to not only, for their own healing, but are reaching out and trying to pay it forward and to also save others and help others by starting their own businesses and networking together. I would say that this is something that more of us need to do.
Yes.
And that if you know, there's a resource or a way to get connected, if you have it in your mind that there's something that you would like to do and you can't really put your finger on it, I would say reach out to Dr. Pitts, because she could then help you get connected, or reach out to one of the resources that are going to be put on the board and see if they can help you. And then also for the bystanders is what I call them, the folks that see things but are just too fearful to say something about it. Just like we're all mandated reporters when it comes to child abuse, we ought to all be mandated reporters when it comes to domestic violence. You see something, you say something. And I think that's enough for right now. Pow.
That's some good stuff. I don't have nothing else to add. Y'all heard all of that. I'm for real.
We are each other's keepers, and we really need to start acting that way.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Good stuff. So I'm gonna look. The keys for your key ring close is gonna be long as heck tonight, but it's okay, because we absolutely positively need to get this information out here. And as Regina said, everybody on here has shared a wealth of information that can help you, their own organizations. We've shared national information. You have access. You have access to the resources, and reiterating that you're not alone. You are absolutely positively not alone. And one thing that I will tell you that we haven't touched on tonight is that when you're a victim of domestic violence, and for real, even if you're a perpetrator, you're not thinking clearly. So take that step to allow those of us that are on the show tonight to help you to think more clearly, to help us to be instrumental in guiding you, if you will, to take the necessary steps to break the cycle of violence that's in your life or that is occurring in the life of a family member, friend, loved one, colleague, or whomever. We are here for you. All of our contact information is all over the place. So there's no reason. There's absolutely positively no reason. And we need you to take this very seriously, because we do not want you to be a death statistic. It's bad enough that you're a DV statistic. We do not want you to be a fatality. So please know that it can happen to you. And it does happen every single day in this country and all over the world. We lose victims every day to domestic violence, and we do not want it to be you. So listeners, we want to thank you so very much for tuning in tonight. Don't forget to order my autobiography, The Queen Within, Becoming the Woman God Intended. I discussed my own journey to freedom from a domestic violent relationship. And believe me when I tell you, I was all too familiar with that trapped, lonely, embarrassed, and humiliating feeling that was laden with shame. I know it all too well. Viola, Reva, Mr. Gregory, Regina, thank all of you so very, very much. Regina, thank you again for being such an amazing, empathic, and wise co-host and counsel and such a tremendous resource as all of you have been tonight for our global listening audience. Listeners, we want you to join us next Wednesday at 9 p.m. Yes, you're very welcome. It was my honor. It really, really is. Listeners, we want you to join us next Wednesday at 9 p.m. as we continue our domestic violence awareness and support series. Thank you all so much for joining us tonight. Good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night. Night.